Dyslexia. We've been called slow, dumb, daydreamers, probably many more, but today I'm going to tell you the truth about dyslexia and what it's like to homeschool two dyslexic children, so stick around. And welcome to Aussies Do Down Under homeschool season. I'm Froniga and I'm dyslexic. So today I'm going to talk about dyslexia and what it's like to homeschool two beautiful dyslexic children of my own. I'm probably going to make a lot of comments that deserve a reference, and I will put lots of websites and reference material down in the description below. If you suspect your child might be dyslexic, a great place to start is searching the web for information. But I do suggest that the first place you do start is with a pediatrician. The pediatrician is going to help guide you to the professionals that are there for your child and to help you assess your child, get the help your child needs, and then use that information to advocate for your child at school if you're not homeschooling, or to help you understand it better so you can homeschool better. So what is dyslexia? Most professionals don't actually call it dyslexia anymore. They call it a specific learning disability. Dyslexia is not a disease. You cannot catch it. It is highly hereditary. If you have a learning disability yourself, or dyslexia as we used to call it, then you are more likely to have a child with dyslexia. And if your child has dyslexia, then they are even more likely to have a sibling with dyslexia. Dyslexia can vary from mild to quite severe, and there is many different forms of dyslexia or specific learning disability. It can be within English, math, writing. There's also dyslexia known as stealth dyslexia. This is when a child can struggle with school despite being gifted in reading. So how do they diagnose dyslexia? Some of the early signs can be not being able to learn the sounds of a letter, difficulty in reading single words, difficulty in fluency when reading. They may read slowly and make many mistakes. They may have poor spelling. Some even reverse their letters and numbers like my daughter did. They find it hard to focus, which is where they get their daydreaming from. And I find it especially hard to learn someone's number, especially if someone's giving me directions over the phone or giving me a number over the phone. Most people say their numbers quite quick. I can tend to only get 4 numbers in a row, and then I have to ask them to repeat it. This is why they say it's quite good to give dyslexics instructions that are maybe 4 sort of parts at a time, because we do tend to forget anything after that. And then because of that, we start to freak out, try and remember it all and forget the 4 that we actually remembered. So little bits of information at a time is always good. But it's not always doom and gloom for a dyslexic. There's many strengths that come with dyslexia because our brains function differently. It is a neurological difference. We actually think in a different way and a different form of patterns within our brain. Because of this difference in the way our brain works, we can almost be heightened or better at other functions that most people don't find as easy. We are great problem solvers. We see bigger picture ideas. We're great with puzzles in our brain. We can think of many different options at once. Some dyslexics can see structures in 3D within their minds. My daughter is like this, which is why she's a great artist. She can see the whole picture that she wants to create in a 3D image and be able to turn that around in her head so that then she can draw it or paint it onto a canvas. They can sometimes see solutions to problems that the world didn't even know they had, which makes them great inventors, entrepreneurs, scientists, engineers, artists, actors. A lot of them become great writers, which sort of sounds weird, I know, but they have a great grasp on vocabulary and really interesting and creative ideas running through their minds. They also make great politicians, but don't hold that against them. It is true that dyslexic kids need to work harder in the normal classroom. The classroom is not really designed for a dyslexic mind, and early intervention is key. If you can find your child is dyslexic, the earlier the better. it gives a sense of freedom to that child, because if they know that they're dyslexic, they stop internalizing these fears and these worries that they're not as good as everyone else. So it gives them a great sense of empowerment. Both my children know that they're dyslexic, because then they don't have to worry about, oh, I can't spell this word, or I'm finding it hard to remember punctuation, or I'm finding it hard to write this piece of work. They can then show what they know in a different way. And there's many other ways we can do this without making them feel like they are small or they can't do it. So things that can help in school, and this is both if they're at normal school or if they're in homeschool. If your child's finding it hard to write, my son finds it really difficult to write, and I can see that he's very tired when he's writing. Then you can teach them typing. Typing is a great skill to learn. They'll do more typing later on in life than they will write anyway. When they're using a computer, let them use the Grammarly programs or the autocorrect programs. That way they're not having to focus on spelling a particular word, but they can then focus on getting what they know in their heads down on paper for you. Another thing that we can help with dyslexia is to not force them to read out loud. Some dyslexics find this really hard. I know when I was at school, if I knew I had to read out loud, I was actually counting the number of people that were before me so that I could work out exactly what paragraph I had to read ahead of time. And that way I would practice it a few times before it got to me. In that process, I managed to do it okay and get the paragraph out correct, but I didn't hear anything that came before me. So it was very hard for me to learn because I was always trying to hide my dyslexia, although at the time I did not know it was dyslexia. Another thing we can do to help them is write instructions down. If you have a list of things that they have to do in a day, let them know beforehand. Let them see it on either the board or in a diary or on a piece of paper right beside them. Give them to-do lists. They find this much easier to follow than trying to remember things in their minds. Another thing that can help is if you're doing the times tables, then fine, concentrate on learning the times tables. If you're doing mathematics and it's really got nothing to do with the times tables, then let them have a times table graph so that they don't actually have to think of the times tables first before they then go on to finishing the math problem. I'm not saying that you shouldn't learn the times tables, because that's super important, and I believe once they learn them, even though it's really hard for a dyslexic person to learn their times tables, but once they learn them, it can open the world with mathematical problems. So it is really important. But if you're not focusing on that in any subject matter or a problem that you're dealing with in math, then it's not that important. Let them have the graph. It's going to take that pressure off them a little bit so they can then concentrate on that higher level concept for the math problem and not be bogged down in 3 times 3. One thing that I've really found true, and I have read this, although I can't remember where, is allowing them to concentrate on their strengths, really building these strengths up. This helps the child gain confidence. It helps them feel like they've got a positive impact on their life. So in my case, my daughter has great artistic ability. So I really allow her to express herself in her art wherever I can. We go to art school, we do art competitions, and in that way she can see how great she is at it and she feels positive about herself in respect to her art. Now this helps at school because they're not always feeling like they're challenged with the next idea that comes up with their education. They get a win, and those little wins are going to help them cope with the other things that are a little harder. So homeschool is a great way to help dyslexics. They really get that one-on-one education that they sometimes need. They can take their time to learn things. They're not pushed to a program that school runs. They don't have that anxiety that's filled with performing in front of a classroom or reading aloud. They can have breaks when they need to, which really helps because a dyslexic mind works so much harder to remember and learn things, which means they need a lot more breaks. Homeschool also allows them to have that creative time, to get those little wins with concentrating on their gifts and their strengths. So my personal experience with dyslexia, well, I grew up thinking that I was dumb. I spent half my life thinking I was dumb, yeah? Dyslexia wasn't diagnosed in the little small town that I came from. So I spent most of my time in what I called, or what everyone called, the dumb group, which was the special ed group, basically. In high school, I passed everything. I found it quite boring, although art and drama were really exciting for me because I could express myself. I did pass everything, but just. I spent a lot of time feeling like I was intelligent inside, but that I just couldn't get the words out. Even now when I'm doing these videos, if I'm trying to put together information, I write everything down first so that I know what I want to say and how I want to say it. And then I'm able to express it to you. Because I don't want to sound silly. I don't want to fumble or fall over my words. I always used to feel kind of street smart. I had a lot of experience as I was growing up, a lot of adversity that I had to deal with. So I felt like I was street smart, but I would always say, I'm street smart, I'm not book smart. When I first thought of going back to uni to study law, I initially thought I wouldn't get in. I was very interested in the subject matter of law and learning about law, but I never thought I had the ability to learn in that way and to perform like I needed to in university. But I did get in. Then when I was in school or in university, I thought that I wouldn't be able to do well. I thought that I wouldn't be able to do the exams or pass them, but I did. I passed them well, and I got a lot of high distinctions, I got a lot of distinctions. I know that I tried way harder than all of my peers that were there. I would take longer to read things. I found it very hard to take notes when I was in a lecture because me trying to write down the notes would then mean I wouldn't hear what the actual lecturer was saying. So I found a system that I would just listen, take in as much as I could, and then I would go home and read the material associated with that lecture, and then that would help me to actually learn it properly in a complete way. I love learning. You ask anyone that knows me really well, and they'll tell you that I am always searching on the internet. I'm always learning, I'm always reading and trying to understand as much as I can about lots and lots of different subjects. I spend a lot of time in my head. I have a million ideas running around. I'm always playing a chess game of knowing every possible scenario in a situation before it happens, which makes me highly intuitive to people and how they feel. Even now though, if I try and express myself in words, I find it really hard. I could learn something and research it and feel like I have complete knowledge of that subject matter, and then go and relay that to someone or tell them how excited I am about a particular subject, and I stumble and I find it hard to show what I actually know in here. I didn't know I was dyslexic until I had 2 children that were dyslexic. I have learned more about myself as a mum with 2 dyslexic children than I ever knew about myself growing up. I now have 2 children with varying degrees of dyslexia. My daughter suffers with English and mathematics, and my son suffers with English and writing. Going on this journey with my children has taught a lot to me about myself, and this helps me to help my children. It's kind of been really good therapy actually. It helps me be a better mum, a better teacher, because I know what they're going through, and I never ever want my children to think that they're dumb because they're dyslexic. And that is the danger. When you don't know you're dyslexic, you can feel like you're inadequate in the classroom or dumb or not worthy. And I do not want my children to feel this way, because they're not. They're capable, they're gifted, they're creative. Because I've learned about their troubles and their struggles and the things that they're going to find hard, I'm not so hard on them anymore when it comes to certain things. I used to get frustrated at my daughter for not remembering a word that she just read on another page when they didn't know their times tables quick enough. That would frustrate me. Now I've let that go, which then means I'm not adding to their insecurity. I'm not adding to their anxiety. I'm just helping them to see their gifts and what their strengths are, so that the other stuff, it will come, and if it doesn't, they'll work out a way to sort of move around it without it being that important. Now for my kids, if I can teach them typing, if I can help them learn these things that are going to allow them to show what's up here and bring it out and show people their worth and show people how great they are and what they know and their knowledge. If I can do that and help them, that's the best thing I could ever give them. And sometimes it's really hard teaching a dyslexic person. Even as a dyslexic person, I find it hard. I still lose patience sometimes. We all have varying degrees of dyslexia at any time. So one day my daughter might be finding things really hard and she doesn't want to do it and she's frustrated and she's taking her mood out. Another day it might be my son who's just, it's like pulling teeth trying to get him to do anything. And sometimes it's me. I might be fumbling over my words as I'm trying to read, which then makes it harder for them to understand because it's not fluent. It's not easy being a parent or a teacher to a dyslexic child. But the impact that you can have on your child as a parent, that impact on the way they see the world, is potentially the most important job you'll ever have. Sometimes I doubt my ability to be a teacher just because I'm dyslexic. I feel like they'd be better off at school. But I have always given my child the option. I don't keep them home because, I just want them to be home. Although, if I had a choice, they'd be homeschooled forever. But it's up to them. I like to give my children the opportunity to be in control of their education. If they wanted to go back to school, they could go back to school in an instant. I just want them to be confident. I want them to be confident learners, confident students, and I want them to be in control of that. It's that fear that they're not going to be what you would like them to be or achieve what you think that they need to achieve. And this is all born from what society tells us is normal or right or where we should be or the level that they should be. If we can just forget all that and allow them to just learn and enjoy that process, which then allows their dyslexic brains or their ASD brains or whatever other brain you have out there, it allows it to develop, to see the world in a different way, which is the beauty of these kids. They have a different way of seeing the world. And believe it or not, that is needed, especially in today's world, especially in the world that we're leading to. And as a homeschool mum, I understand, especially from someone who went through quite a negative dyslexic journey, not even knowing that I was dyslexic. But I understand from a real personal point of view how one person who believes in you, one person who nourishes your gifts and allows you to learn in the way you need to, is the most important thing you can have. And as homeschool mums and dads, that's us. We're going to be that person. And it can be a positive experience or it can be a negative experience. That's totally up to you and the way you run it. And I think as homeschool mums and dads, we've already understood that something more needs to happen. We already understand that our child didn't actually belong in that square, that they were outside of the box thinkers and that they needed one-on-one. So my hat is off to all the mums and dads out there who homeschool their children. My hat is off to all the mums and dads out there who maybe can't homeschool their children, but do everything they can to help their child have a positive learning experience, because that is all it's about. Because ultimately, if they love learning, they can teach themselves anything in the way they need to be taught. So I know I have ranted and raved, as per usual about this subject, but I really felt like I wanted to talk about dyslexia. I wanted to give you my opinions on dyslexia, and I just wanted to connect. I wanted to connect in this subject because I know there's other parents out there who may believe that their child is dyslexic, or maybe they've got something else. And I want you to know that there's lots of us out there who have a child that doesn't sit inside that box, yes? And I want us to help each other, talk about it, make it more normal, because it is normal. 1 in 5 children has dyslexia. That's a lot. And it needs to be talked about more. It needs to become more normal so that they don't feel like it's not right, because it's not right. It's just different, and it's good different, yes? We need differences, especially in this changing world that we're in right now. So anyway, if you liked this video and you would like to see more on my channel, please hit that like button. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. But anyway, thank you. Have a great day. I will see you all next week. See ya.